last night on the Democratic side, we had a showstopper election, almost quite literally. Hillary Clinton took Connecticut with 51% of the vote. She took Delaware with 60% of the vote, Maryland with 63% of the vote, and Pennsylvania with 56% of the vote. Bernie took Rhode Island with 55% of the vote, but that's not enough. So based on the polling data moving forward and what Bernie would need to win, which is 64% of the pledged delegates moving forward, it's safe to say it's not going to happen. Now, he's going to stay in the race because, as we discussed recently, Hillary might get indicted. And if so, then there's a real argument for Bernie to flip superdelegates and to actually get the nomination. But like I said, not good for Bernie. It appears like it's over in terms of him actually being able to win this thing outright without a contested convention and flipping superdelegates. But he should stay in the race for that reason because, again, she's under investigation by the FBI. There's been some whispers in the past few days that something's going to go down. Either there's going to be some sort of an indictment, or if there's not an indictment, you're going to have the FBI leak the investigation to the media and show exactly what Hillary did, and that may bring up some big questions and really, really tank her general election chances. So it does make sense for him to stay in the race, but just know that in terms of him overtaking her, that's not going to happen. And everybody in the upcoming primaries should still 100% go out and cast a vote for him anyway, but we just need to be realistic here about what the chances are. Now, it's time to have the conversation, too, about how Bernie Sanders almost did Mission Impossible. I mean, he stood up there and he took on the biggest name in Democratic politics in modern American history. He took on the entire Democratic establishment and the financial establishment, and he took on the entire mainstream media, and he nearly won. He wasn't known by virtually anybody a year and a half ago. He's a random senator from Vermont, and he got to the point of being tied and leading in some national polls with Hillary Clinton. And you need to understand that regardless of how this portion of the movement ends, the movement must continue, and it has to go on. And it has to go on because it was supposed to go on no matter what. And Bernie himself will tell you, hey, if it doesn't happen for this campaign, if it doesn't happen me becoming president, you still need to go on and you still need to fight, because no change ever just came from the top down. Okay, there's always different factors at play. And one of the most important ones is a true grassroots movement that applies pressure to those in power, that lets them know, hey, you don't have a fucking choice. You're going to do these things that we're calling for, and that's the end of the conversation. And, you know, throughout time with the civil rights movement, we've seen that. With other movements, we've seen that. And understand that people always think that taking that next big step is impossible until it fucking happens. You know, if you talk to women 2 years before they got the right to vote, hey, are you going to get the right to vote? They would have said, fuck no. If you talk to people when alcohol was illegal in the United States and you said, hey, in 2 years they're going to get rid of this prohibition nonsense, would they have believed you? No. If you told a black person living in segregated Mississippi or Alabama that 2 years before we got the passage of the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act and we ended segregation, hey, you know that this thing's going to be over soon, right? They would have said, pie in the sky nonsense. So when people say today, hey, stand strong, don't worry, at some point we're going to get money out of politics. We're going to end the legalized bribery and the corruption in our system, and we're going to have clean elections in America and get a constitutional amendment. When people say that, right now you can respond with total and utter cynicism. Yeah, don't be stupid. Okay, keep saying that. Eventually it's going to happen. What do you think? We're going to be stagnant and it's going to be like this throughout history? That's not the way history works. I mean, we're talking about something here that is constantly developing and evolving. And again, you might say today, the idea of a living wage, that is never going to fucking happen. Okay, well, let's see. Let's watch how many people start to join in the Fight for 15, for example, among other movements, and then put pressure on the government, and then find a way to get a living wage law and chain it to inflation, and then we've won on that one forever because you chained it to inflation. So these things are possible, man. That's why the campaign Hillary has run, I mean, it's the worst imaginable campaign for any Democratic candidate. I mean, her supporters and her surrogates have been out there saying that Bernie Sanders calling for single-payer healthcare, for example, and universal college, that's rainbows and unicorns. For fuck's sake, man. Every other modern nation has universal healthcare, and many of them have universal college. What do you mean it's behind this guy? Oh, it's too expensive. Your fucking candidate voted for the Iraq War, which by 2053 will have cost $7 trillion. And now you're going to turn around and lecture people who pay their fucking taxes that, hey, we're not going to give you education and we're not going to give you health care? How fucking dare you? How dare you? So, we may not have won in this particular way, but the fight goes on, and there are 1,000,001 ways in which we will win. And people in the Bernie coalition have to stick together, have to keep fighting, and eventually will win. There's one major fact which people don't pay attention to nearly enough, which is that the political system is nothing but window dressing. You know, people will say, oh, well, Hillary got the most votes, so obviously that's what people want, is what she's pushing for. No. Let's get more specific here. Look at the actual individual policy positions and see what the American people are in favor of. You name the issue, and the American people are just liberal. Not center-left, not centrist, not center-right, like many in the mainstream media believe. No, they're just liberal. They want to raise the minimum wage, 80%. They want universal background checks for gun purchases, 90%. 60% say raise taxes on the rich. 60% say under no circumstances cut Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security. Only 17% still want to be in Afghanistan. I'm not kidding. You name the fucking issue. And it's a majority of the American people who say, yeah, I'm just liberal. So the actual system is built to water down what we want because they take donor money. The politicians take donor money from corporations and wealthy people, and then they do their bidding. You can only keep that up for so long before the people say, no, there's going to be some changes here. It's that Princeton study, which is so important, which proves political science research that corporations and wealthy donors get what they want all the time. There's no correlation whatsoever between what the American people want, what poor and middle-class people want, and the legislation we end up getting. Okay, this is why Congress, there was a recent report out that said Congress has a 4% approval rating. What the fuck? I've said this before, but guys, you can elect Congress one day, a month later, or 3 weeks later, whatever, 2 weeks later, you do a survey and you say, hey, what's the approval rating? What's the favorability rating of Congress? And the same people who just elected these people will say it's like a 16%, 18% approval rating. How can that possibly fucking be? It can be because we all know the system's broken. We all know we're voting for the lesser of two evils. So we have power in numbers. And the media and the establishment might do everything they can to try to distract you from that reality. But it's true. It's the reality. So if all of us who believe these things come together and march on Washington and fight in a plethora of ways, call your congresspeople, get involved, join various groups, if we all get together and fight, they literally can't win. So, okay, they have the money. Okay, they have the system currently bought. But we have 80%, 90% of the American people agreeing on some issues, including getting money out of the system, where we can make allegiances and alliances with people in the center and actually even on the right. So if we all band together and stick together, what, we can't get it done? For fuck's sake, again, to bring up the civil rights movement, they were able to get it done with fewer people. Of course we can get it done. We just have to fight for it, and we have to understand that the end goal was never just to get one candidate. I mean, don't get me wrong, it would have been fantastic to have somebody who's a total and utter ally of the movement in the White House, no question about it. But if we can't manifest that into reality, well, then that just means we have to fight even harder when it comes to the grassroots. And you know who would say fuck yeah to that more than anybody else? Bernie Sanders. So you continue to fight for that philosophy and that message. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But always remember that change never solely comes from the top down. Sometimes it comes from the top down, but it's always a more nuanced picture than that. It's always a more mixed picture than that. There's always heroes behind the scenes fighting for these things and applying the pressure to make it so that from the top down, we actually get those laws implemented. So we keep fighting, we move along here, and we live to fight another day.